Welcome to Season 3, Episode 3 of FountainCast. I am Betsy Lavoie with the Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here today with two very special people. I will let you both introduce yourselves. Go ahead.
Oh,
Go
really?
ahead.
Okay, I guess we're just going to go round robin here. So I am Julie Jones with The Adventures of Julie Jones, and I love to say I'm the one and only Julie Jones.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yes. And I'm Kristin Milashowski, Business Engagement here at your Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce.
Woohoo! So this is the very first official episode of our deeper dive in depth with our chamber member authors. And so Julie, let's start out. So you have more than one book. So if you could please share with our audience all of your books, and then we'll take a deeper dive into just one.
Just one. Okay, so it started off with, this is my number one book, Stop Waiting, Start Living. So this is the one that I released on November 17th, 2021. So just like in a little over, 2.5 years. Because it's not even, it's like 2024, but it would be November of 2024.
Sure.
That would be 3 years. So I have this one, and then I did a journal, Stop Doing, Start Being. I have the Entrepreneur's Toolkit for Success,
Awesome.
Six-Figure Chicks. This is the third edition that I'm in of celebrating 365 days of gratitude. I'm also in another book that I forgot to bring the copy of, but it's The Magic of Positivity. And then I just got released as of yesterday, February 29th. I'll put that out there, leap year, for the second edition of the 365 Days of Gratitude, another gratitude book. So if you could get a theme, it's all about gratitude, right? Yeah. So.
And that leads to the positivity.
That's right.
Yes.
Leads to the
Yes.
positivity.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. That is so exciting.
It
all
is.
of that success. You are truly a chamber member author. Love it.
Well, and you know what's funny about it all is that, I always like to tell people that it was overcoming the idea that I didn't think I was a writer.
Okay.
Right? So, it was a really big dive when I did my first book, Stop Waiting, Start Living, because I thought to myself, holy cow, I'm really putting myself out there.
Right.
And then when you get great response, which all authors do, because people recognize that it's a challenge to put yourself out there, then, the rest of them come easy.
Sure.
The part that's not easy is always coming up with new and different ideas. Yeah.
So just like the one and only Julie Jones, so when she's going to overcome writing, she's going to overcome it with multiple success stories. I love it. I love it. So we are going to take a deeper dive into Stop Waiting, Start Living.
Right. We are not waiting. We are not going to start to wait.
I'm so sorry. Stop waiting, start living.
We are getting out of the waiting room. There is a great book, if you've never read, by Dr. Seuss, called All the Places We'll Go.
Oh, I love
and
that
I love that book, but it's really, if you reread it again as an adult, there are so many key takeaways, and he talks about the waiting place in there, to stop being in the waiting place.
Right.
And Dr. Seuss, has been a big influence on me, unbeknownst to me. Right? So,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So share, since this is the very first Julie Jones book, share with us how it came to be. Did you self-publish? How did you find the collaborators on the book? Tell us a little bit more about the initial beginnings.
The beginnings. So there was this idea, right? And I went to some different seminars and different things where people talked about that a book really becomes your calling card. It sets you apart in so many different aspects when you have a business. And of course, I knew that I always like to set myself apart, but I wanted it to be different. And I really wanted to speak from the heart because of what I share in the book in and of itself is, my life and my story. And in fact, when I wrote in the book and you put it out there and then you give it to family members or you give it to other people, and I forgot some of the things that I had shared, and people had no idea that I had gone through the things that I had gone through. It's like you're really putting yourself out there.
Absolutely.
So it really that was the strategy behind it. I really wanted to set myself apart. And a lot of times, even as a speaker, which I am, a lot of stages will look for people who are published. If they're deciding between two people and they're both equally of value, but one of them has a book, a lot of times they'll select the person that has a book because it's just another layer of credibility.
Right. Interesting.
You know, like having a podcast, layer of credibility. I also have a TV show, layer of credibility, because it's amazing to people who don't know sometimes the background that they think, like having a TV show, oh my gosh, you know, you're a TV star. My brother always calls me a TV star, right? But it's not. It's streaming television. It is TV. It's not like sometimes people will have YouTube channels or those kinds of things and say that it's TV. I actually fly down to Dallas, you know, have a studio where I'm being taped, right? It's live, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's about credibility, and it's about really letting people know authentically who you are, and that I share my vulnerability is really what it comes to. So, you know, I'm surrounded by amazing people, and when I said that I was going to do this project, I invited other people to be part of it, and people love to say yes. They really do, but they're nervous. But I had a whole protocol in place where there was coaching. You know, I'd hired somebody to help me with this, and then it was published through Amazon.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is so amazing. Wow. So before we take a deeper dive, so you mentioned your podcast, you mentioned your television show. You have to share. How can everyone find your podcast and your show?
The easiest way, quite honestly, is to go to juliejones.biz. And there is a tab at the top that says media, and you can go ahead and find my podcast. It's on all major podcast channels, and then my television show is on there as well. And then we'll probably put into the notes of this, like I always like to talk about the notes. I'm always looking for my stuff, right? But I have this fun little card that also has some information, and you can scan the QR code, and that takes you to a whole menu of different ways that you can find me and connect with me.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You're in all the right places.
I am on all the right places. Look, I'm here today. All the right places.
And so Kristin and I really wanted to focus on your chapter. Let's start there. So Kristin, butt into anything that you want to ask before we go further.
I've seen you in workshops and read your books, and I think one of the things that really sticks out is you faced your fears and overcame, you know, so many obstacles and challenges. But what can you share with our listeners about getting over the fears? Like, how do you get over that hump of being afraid to do something and write a book, or, you know, put yourself out there?
Well, and of course the name of my chapter is Face the Fear and Do It Anyway, right? And that really is what it's about. It's about taking action. And I know it sounds easier said than done, right? Like somebody who's on the verge of not being able to like move forward and face that fear. But I think of one of my clients who's also going to be on the podcast, Dr. Chris Condon, who wrote his very first book. And that was like 8 years in the making.
Really?
It's been a while. And
was it because you said stop waiting?
Well, I said stop. Yes. Well, if you hire me as a coach, right, like you can bet your bottom dollar that you're going to stop waiting,
right,
and you're going to start doing the things that you've always talked about doing. See, there's a lot of energy wasted and spent thinking about doing something and not going ahead and just taking the action steps to do it. And I know most people's fears stem from the fact of how they're going to look. And I forgot today my favorite prop, my googly-eyed glasses. But as you know, I'm known for my googly-eyed glasses, right? And it's like getting to the point that, you know, you are a gift. And I often say, I've been saying this a lot, especially in the last couple of weeks, is, you know, I'm a believer in God. And I say that God doesn't make mistakes. And you are perfect exactly the way that you are. And you really just need to continue to put yourself out there and share your message. And it's okay. We're all going to stumble and fumble. But that's why people find me. And it doesn't always have to be that they hire me. Like I often, you know, offer a 30-minute free call with me. Bring to me what's really, you know, holding you back. And I will give you a million ideas of things that you can do to just start taking those steps forward.
I love it.
So one thing that I always think about, because I tend to always want to do more, be more. You live my fullest life, right? Just like you. So how do you accept that you are good enough and exactly perfect the way God made you without being complacent? Because for me, I've always... No, I'm not yet good enough. I got to do more. I got to be more, right? So where is that fine line for you?
Well, that's why I came out with the journal too. Because it says stop doing, start being. So it is like a balance, counterbalance, right? Like people believe that there's balance in life, and I'm here to dispel that myth. Because it's like, work hard, play hard, right? And I don't even like the word hard, because it doesn't have to be hard. But like, it's about being in the moment. See, people believe that if they do, they're going to have, and they're going to be happy, right? And it's the opposite way around. It's like, you want to be happy first. And in being happy, or being loved, or being like, who you were born to be, that's where the doing and the having will come into place. But again, you don't want to be all work. All work. I call it like, woo, busy. Everybody talks about like, the first question that you ask them, how are you? Oh, I'm so busy. Yes, we're all busy.
Yes.
But like, are you busy living life? Are you busy being productive? What are you busy doing? Like sometimes we're just doing a bunch of mundane stuff that really doesn't need to be done. We think it's important,
Right.
but it's really not that important. Like if you look at things, and you guys both know my story right now, right? Like on November 9th, my husband was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. It's like, it shouldn't take a life-altering moment like that to change everything, because that's what usually happens for people, but it has changed everything. Because now all of a sudden, what's a priority. I know how I want to spend my time. It's not running around like a chicken with my head cut off, where I used to think that things were important. Now I really know truly what is important. It's the time with him and the time spent doing the things that matter most, right? Like I'm still working. I mean, I'm not working as much. And again, all those things that I thought had to be done, no longer are important. And that's the reason for the journal as well, is that because if you look at it, what are you celebrating today and most excited about? It's about celebrating what you did get done. And even if it was nothing more than just enjoying a beautiful sunny day, and you read and you did what you really love to do, that's important. That's worth celebrating. Because again, when we are at our deathbed, it's not about, like, we don't look at all the money we have. We don't look at what got done. We look at the time and the experiences that we had with people. It's the memories. And memories don't come necessarily from stuff. They come from life experiences.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing I love about your journal is the prompts, of course, are great. But the fact that you could choose each day and choose which prompt you're going to do. And so you don't for me personally, I don't necessarily answer each one each day. I'll put the date down and write to the one, and I have used it. Real quick, you don't get to see into my private thoughts. But you get to choose which prompt you want to answer, but it's all about gratitude. It's all about journaling, and I love it. I love the structure of it.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head, because I've done journals, right? And I've had journals. I've like a million journals that I've ever started, and I get this mindset, like, oh my gosh, I have to do this every day. Have to, right? Like, it's so important to know your language. Do I have to, or do I get to? And when you get to do my journal, you're right, there are no dates on there purposefully. I don't even have a place that you can fill in a date, because it's about you using it when you want to use it. And I often find, again, with working with clients and working with people, that people get to the end of their day and they look at that dang to-do list and see everything that didn't get done, versus looking and saying, oh my gosh, look at all the amazing things I was able to accomplish today.
Right. And from your book too, I really enjoy the fact that you have different authors with the chapters, because you might really resonate with a different person. But from your chapter, I underlined a quote that I would love for you to speak to, if you don't mind. And it is, fear is a reaction, but courage is a decision. So could you speak to that a little bit more?
Absolutely, because really think about that. Like you're faced with writing your first book, right? So the immediate reaction may be, is it fear? Is it happiness? Is it, oh my God, like what the heck am I doing, right? But standing in courage, like when you decide, it is, like you can hear my language, when you decide that you're going to stand in courage and face whatever is coming at you, like I have two options right now in my life. Like I could let the fear, I could let, the unknown of our current situation really stopped me in my tracks. Like I could have told you, because you text me and checked in and said, okay, like, are you sure you still want to do this? And I was like, yes, because interestingly enough, before the first book came out, I've been sharing this story. Not a lot of people always know this, but on November 6th of 2021, my husband was, we were at a wedding together. And he had a massive seizure, and he actually died at that wedding and was resuscitated.
Holy crap. Wow.
At that wedding, and spent, like 3 or 4 days in the hospital. And he was released from the hospital, and then 2 years later to the day, November 6th, 2023, is when he ended up in the hospital again.
Wow.
And November 9th, we got the current cancer diagnosis, right? But it was on November 6th of 2021, my book was scheduled to come out November 17th. And I was faced with the exact same question. My publisher asked me, do you want to move forward and still release the book on the 17th? Like not knowing what my husband's situation was, because he was in a medically induced coma for a couple of days. Or do you want to, go ahead with the book? And really knowing that the name of the book is Stop Waiting, Start Living, it was like, nope, I just felt the calling that I needed to move forward with making that book, a reality, and also knowing how much he supported me and that he wanted me to have that, that book go forward and stuff as well. He eventually got released from the hospital. That book went to international bestseller. So my book went to #1 in Canada, Italy, as well as the United States.
That's
And
awesome.
yes, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, but that was the clear intention, like, setting the clear goal, the clear intention, like this is going to happen, right? And it's no different now. Like, again, when you come to me and say, okay, are you ready to talk about your book? Do I say no because of everything that's going on? Or do I share my story knowing that it can impact and make a difference for somebody out there who maybe on the same journey, right? There may be somebody that's going to listen in, that's going to hear this podcast or see the video and think, oh my gosh, I'm in the same position. And I'm here to tell you, like, reach out to me because I will be there for you to give you a guiding hand. So,
Love it.
yeah.
So besides your journal, knowing you as well as I do, Julie, I feel like you're constantly giving, constantly there for everyone else. You're constantly giving of yourself. What do you do to fill your bucket besides journaling?
Filling my bucket looks like a lot of times it really is connecting with friends. I really do have an amazing group of people that surround me. And I love to be able to spend time with friends. I've got, 3 rescue dogs. So doing some walking, they love when mom says, let's go for a walk, right? And getting myself out there. I do some self-care, of course, because I always say self-care is not selfish. So this afternoon I'm going for a massage, right? Like I've got a massage scheduled. And some of those things I've always looked at necessity, not as luxury. A lot of people... Gosh, we'll say, oh, I don't need a massage. And I'm like, I need a massage. And I need one, right? Like, it's not, a luxury. So I do those things. And I think the most important thing that I can be doing right now is, asking for help if I need it. Because I think so much for so many of us, like we live this life of being like a lone ranger, right? Like, oh no, I've got it. Like I can do it all, right? And as human beings, we were not put on this earth to be alone. Like we discovered that through COVID. That's why I think it was so hard for so many people, is the solitude and the aloneness when people just really wanted to be together. And so it's remembering that and, going out there and finding the people that are in your, circle, your wheelhouse, right? And if they're not lifting you up, then it's time to find some new people and find the people that vibrate with you, right? So, yeah.
And isn't it funny how much joy those rescue dogs give you?
Oh my gosh. Every once in a while, you're like, oh my gosh. And I have gone to Rescue Pals, twice now, right here in Fountain Hills, because I love what they do and how they help the community. And, two of our bigger dogs that have been both rescued. We lost Mickey about almost now 2 years ago, but he came from rescue, and now we have Roscoe. Aww. And Roscoe is just a big love bug. He's such a... I would probably, rescue all the dogs from Rescue Pals. Have my rescue ranch, right? And that would probably be, not the best idea right now. So. Yes.
I also really like, you have your separate journal, but I really like that even in Stop Waiting and Start Living, that you have journaling prompts within. I think that's unusual for a self-help type book. I love self-help books. Kristin and I are avid readers, and that's why Kristin and I are doing this together. This is more for us than it is for you. But I do, and what do you think, Kristin? I really enjoy the fact that you have journaling right with each chapter. It's so cool.
Well, and that was designed, I'm very intuitive, right? And so I'm getting all these downloads all the time. That's why a lot of times when I speak, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to speak on, because people are like, oh, I'm so excited to hear you speak. I'm like, I'm excited to hear what I have to say too, right?
I've heard you say it before, and I love it.
Yes, because
on the edge of your seat.
I know my material, but somehow things just download into me that, somebody in my audience needs to hear that. And so I'm just going to speak it out loud for whoever is there. But I kept getting the message, because the book is about taking action, right? We can read as many self-help books as we want. But after you read them, if they sit on the shelf and you don't take action on what you've read, it's all well and good, but it's about how did this book shift and change my life, and what can I really put into action? And that takes an additional action step. It takes reading it, writing it, because writing just is another form of making it sink in a little bit more, and then stepping forward and taking the action. Because I've read a lot of books, I've gone to a lot of great seminars, but the biggest thing is always about what is the one or two things that I'm taking away that I'm going to put into action.
So do you have a routine to journal, and share your routine with us that keeps you?
My routine looks a lot like, when I feel the calling, I have a gratitude journal. So I'm really big. I use my own journal, of course. It's a great journal, right? However, I'm all about gratitude, and I've always done, whether I have a gratitude journal or not, but I'll pick up my notebook and I'll write the things that I'm most, grateful for, attitude of gratitude to start off with. A lot of times in those gratitude journals, you start off thanking, being thankful for the big things, and then it comes down to the very small things that you end up recognizing and being grateful for. There's so many times I say how grateful I am to wake up to the sun and the beauty and everything else, because living here in Arizona, and I've traveled the world, I still think that the sunsets here are the most beautiful sunsets I've seen anywhere in the world, right? So it looks and I don't put have-tos on myself. So if I wake up and I have kind of a routine in the morning where I'll make myself some coffee. The dogs want to be, fed and stuff. And then just taking that time for myself, whether that looks like, a little bit of meditating, going outside and stretching, getting some vitamin D in, I love to listen to inspirational music in the fact that it's instrumental. And letting that creativity flow, because it's in the down times that our creativity comes to us. Writing in a journal. There's a book out there called The Miracle Morning, and he's got 5 steps of things to be doing,
of
right?
Course we've read it.
Of course you've read it, right? However, sometimes again, it gets overwhelming for people, It's like, okay, I have to do this, right?
Right.
It's like, I tell people all the time, especially when they come to my seminars or they do anything, it's like, take one thing, and you like consistently implement it on a daily basis for at least 90 days. You know, and after 30 days, if you feel yourself being consistent, then you can bring something else in. But it's the overwhelming things that we do to ourselves. Like, you know, if you've ever wanted to release a few extra pounds, right? Like, what's the first thing you do? You say, oh my God, I'm going to eliminate sugar. I'm going to eat, you know, like really limited meals. I'm going to exercise 10 times a day. Yes. And like you do all these,
water.
like more water, all these things. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, like you do that maybe a day or two, and then you're done because it was too overwhelming.
Yeah.
But if you just decided, you know what, I'm actually going to just do that water thing and just drink more water, like you'd be surprised with drinking the more water gives you a feeling of fullness, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, you're eating cleaner, and then maybe you have more energy to go do that walk or do whatever it is you want. It's like, I tell people, stop shooting on yourself. Like, you know, like just do what feels good and incorporate it. Don't beat yourself up because, you know, it's this comparison game, right? Like, oh, you know, Betsy, she does all this stuff and look at how successful she is. So now you think to yourself, okay, well, I need to do all the same things, and you don't. Yeah. Right? Like you have your own lifestyle, your own routine, your own things that mean, you know, maybe differently to you than they do to Betsy. So.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting, your use of words. I don't know if anyone else has picked up on this, but Julie said, release a few pounds. How many people say lose a few pounds? Well, when you lose something, you try to find it.
Yeah, right? That's right.
And so I've noticed that that's just one example, but almost everything you say sounds very intentional. Like you are very careful. I don't know if that must just be intuitive.
It's not so much careful. It's that, like, from everything that I've done, like, we are talking to ourselves all the time. As I'm talking to the audience right now, I'm talking to my unconscious mind. And I'm, like, coaching myself. I'm setting myself up, right? And so our unconscious mind is designed to protect us and keep us safe. So sometimes by some of the words that we use, and I'm a master practitioner in neuro-linguistic programming, so some of the words that we use that we're talking to ourselves can help the unconscious mind feel safer so that you don't always have that fear reaction, right? Like fear is always going to be there because as human beings, we have fear or flight, like, you know, like the fight or flight, you know, kind of response. That's always going to be there to protect you. It becomes the issue when you're allowing it to run your life too much.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very impressive.
I feel like we could talk to you for like the next 3 hours, but to stay within our podcast time limits, is there anything you'd like to share or any questions you might have, Kristin? Anything in closing?
Yeah, you know, I was just going to say, I love that we give ourselves these have-tos, you know, and you don't give yourself any. And I think that's like a key takeaway for me today is like with the journaling, you know, I do that, you know, for a couple weeks and then I fall off the bus with that, you know, and I stopped doing it. And so I think that that's something that I can immediately apply today is that, you know, not giving myself those have-tos. It's okay to journal once a week or what, you know, whenever I pick it up and give myself permission, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's really out there, like, you know, for people to stop beating themselves up. I think as human beings, we just go to a place again. It's like, you know, oh my gosh, you know, I didn't do this again today. It's okay. Yeah. Like, it's your life. It's your journey. Right? Like, nobody gave us a handbook when we were born and said, okay, this is exactly what you need to do. Yeah. Right. We're figuring it out as we go along and seeing what resonates with you.
Right. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. This is so much. You're right. I could talk for another 6 hours. So let's go.
I know. So thank you so much for watching today or listening on your favorite podcast platform. Check in the notes for the links to all of Julie's books and to her television show and to her podcast. And like, share, and review our podcast wherever you listen. Thanks so much.
Bye. Bye.